Hey guys, so I want to make a character update on my Lightning Strike Prophet character in the new event league. So this character has been extremely strong for me, but I do know some people have been struggling because, this ascendancy does not have defense and you have to build defense on your own. You just can't rely on natural defense for your ascendancy. So yeah, I want to go over everything in this video, a whole FAQ essentially. But if you want to know my personal progress, yeah, for me, this has been one of my best league starters ever. Once again, for me, extremely high damage and extremely high speed did exactly what I wanted to do. I was going to do tier 17s day 1, and now I've been fully farming tier 17s all of day 2. As you can see, I already farmed a Mage Blood, I already have like 50 Divines in my stash, a ton of other currency as well. So for me, this build has been exceptionally strong. But, for newer players, you just started out, a squishy class ascendancy might be pretty rough for you early on. But if you stick with it, it is extremely rewarding because Lightning Strike is one of the highest DPS skills in the entire game and also one of the best clear speed skills in the entire game. So I made this whole FAQ here and I want to go over all of it for you guys. I'll also have this link down below as an image and in my spreadsheet as well. So let's just start real quick. Which bandit do you want? You want to lure for the resist. Later on when you fix the resist, you can respect kill all for 1 passive point. How you do this is you go to a vendor and you vendor 20 regret orbs and an onyx amulet. This will give you a book. You click the book and you lose your 15 all resist, but you get +1 passive skill point. Illyria is just always nice early on because the resist helps you earn day 1. Merc Lab trouble. So I assume this is a new player issue, but I've had a few people who are struggling in Merc Lab. My advice for you is try to get like 2k plus life before entering Merc Lab, resist cap of course, and just do the mechanics for Azaro. Don't try to skip him or force phase him. Just do the mechanics. And he has no buffs. Azaro is really easy. His attacks are very, very slow. I guess a tip I could give is walk around Azaro. If you walk around him, he'll practically never hit you outside of the slam, in which case he's gonna get away. Yeah, I presume new players were struggling with Merc Lab on a rather low life build to start, but overall it shouldn't be that hard. Just try to get 2k plus life and do his mechanics. If you need to, just kill him with Crumble Lash only and stay at range. That should also help. Next question is how to recom your claw / general recombination of Vice. So I have this claw right here. I've also made other claws like this and sold them as well. And essentially how you make a claw, the basics double prefix. All you have to do is alteration spam claw bases until they roll double prefix of flat damage. So I don't have any examples right here, but yeah, essentially all you'll do, you would alteration spam and until you get a flat, high tier damage, preferably tier 2 or higher. Then we have 2 claws with flat damage, tier 2 or higher. You just recombinate them and that's it. It's a 32% chance that the claw keeps both prefix and then your claw is done. You craft attack speed and you're good to go. Later on when you have more currency, you can of course craft can have up to 3 kind of modifiers. Hits can't be evaded and attack speed. But at the start, just get 2 claws with tier 2 flat damage of any elemental damage. Preferably you do want cold though, so you can freeze more reliably. You combine them together and that's it. It's extremely simple. And then that's also how you recombinate every single gear piece as well. So I have it more explained in here if you want to read it. But yeah, that's how you craft boots, gloves, helm as well. And if you want a 3x mod claw, the crit multi or attack speed, once again, it's also explained right here. But what you would do is recom a claw with flat damage with attack speed. And then you have a claw with flat damage and attack speed. Then you recom another claw with flat damage, a different type of flat damage. So let's say like fire and attack speed and lightning and attack speed. And then we have those 2 claws, you combine them together and that's how you get a 3 mod claw. That's also the same method you use for gear. So I hope that's simple enough, but recombinators at a base value, you can make any triple prefix or triple suffix or 2 prefix 1 suffix in the game as long as you have alterations. It really is just that simple. Once again, read this, you want to know a little bit more about it. All right, how to solve defense. So this is definitely a big one because I know particularly new players are having a rough time early on. I also was dying quite a bit early on because like I said, I don't mind dying early on. For me, I just care for going as fast as possible and doing as much damage as possible, going to tier 17s as early as possible, which this character did achieve. Now that does come at the cost of dying a little bit more, but you have soft core, you have 6 portals, it really does not matter early on. Eventually the defense is solved through gear, and that's how I'll explain it here. Keep in mind early on, you can always prioritize life nodes over damage since the build already has insane DPS. Early on in like white and yellow tier maps, focus on getting 4k life, resist cap with decent evasion, I'd say at least 10k plus without flask. This defense at a base value is enough to carry you through white and yellow maps and even through early reds as well. As you enter red maps, you'll want to get spell suppression, start getting some evasion hybrid set up, aim for like 1k ES, 4k life with spell suppression cap if you can. If you're not capped, it's very, very, very important to take spell suppression as lucky, but do try getting spell suppress cap as it is a lot of damage reduction. It's 50% DR for spells. It's absolutely massive. If you're not spell suppress cap, do get it. As you can see, I'm currently 4.3k life and 800 ES. My ES is kind of low because I couldn't really find good evasion ES, helmet and gloves. I was at 4.5k life before the Mage Blood. I just got Mage Blood, played with it for like 1 hour, then like ended stream, so I really haven't played with this all that much. I barely even set up my flask. But yeah, I was at 4.5k life and 800 ES before. That by itself, with just fortifying plus on chest and spell suppression cap, was comfy enough for tier 16s where I was never dying in tier 16s. Outside of taking altars where I maybe go negative resist, because you can get some altars that give you like negative 80% fire resist. So yeah, that's the only time I was dying in tier 16s, when I had that baseline defense, which is pretty simple and very easy to get. You really do want a high evasion ES chest eventually, necrotic armor. Like mine is not even that good. This can get all the way up to 700 plus ES. They can get like 100 ES on boots, helmet, and gloves. You can eventually comfortably set at 1500 ES, and then with even more investment, you can get 2000 ES. So yeah, it's very important to scale your hybrid defense, and when you do go hybrid, make sure you click on Ghost Dance and even Soul Thief. You need some more ES on kill, but you also get ES on kill for the small node right here. Before hybrid, you'll need to click this, and also Blood Rage. This is fine to use before you are hybrid, but after you're hybrid, you don't want to click this because it'll just completely degen your ES and you don't have a good way to recover it. So do keep that in mind. But yeah, later on, you also get Fortifying plus on your chest. You also want to get Endurance Charge on kill if you're on Lethal Pride. This is pretty important as well. This is where you get your Endurance Charges from. And then eventually you also get Svallin. And then we get to Svallin with this setup. You'll feel practically immortal. I'm swapping to the Svallin setup tomorrow. I've actually had this shield for the whole day. I just didn't feel like swapping to it, but I'll swap to it tomorrow. From there on out, I'll probably rarely die at that point because this shield is really, really good for the softcore playstyle, where you can essentially not build defense anywhere else, just equip this shield, and you're pretty much, just fine for softcore. Gear priority, just going over this real quick. Generally, the first gear priority you want to get is just good rares. I see people ask me like, hey, I dropped one divine, what should I do with it? What unique should I buy? Focus on your rares first. It's very, very important for all your rares to have at least 100 plus life. If every rare you have has 100 plus life, and you have all your life wheels in your skill tree, you'll have roughly around like 4k to 4.5k life, and I'll feel very comfy for mapping. So do focus on your rares first, just basic life and resist, attributes if you need it. Attack speed on gloves is nice, but not needed. But yeah, do focus on your rares first, then get your uniques. I do have the unique party here as well though, so focusing on getting a 6 link first. This is the most important piece for like damage. Then get your 2 Taming Rings, then get a Lethal Pride, and 1 8 passive cluster of Martial Prowess. So something like this, where it's just one node you want to click Martial Prowess, because getting Abyss Jewels is a lot of damage. After that, get a Marlene's Fallacy, and then eventually you will replace that Marlene's with a Yoke. Yoke is better, but it's also way more expensive. Marlene's is extremely cheap relative to Yoke. I think Marlene's right now is like 3 divines, while Yoke is like, 15 divines. So Yoke is better, but it's also a lot more expensive. Also, make sure you get good Abyss Jewels. They give a ton of damage. Don't skip out on them. They're very, very important for the DPS of the build. 1 to swap to Svallin. Lightning 3 is all you really need at the start. This allows you to use Tempest Shield and gives you a good base block and spell block value. You don't need max block, to fully use Svallin. You do eventually want it, but at a starting base point, that is all you need. Then eventually you get block from your clusters, and you also get block from jewels as well, and then you'll get max block. You'll also get As the Mountain Anoint, which gives 10% block. You don't need all that. You do eventually want it, but at the start, just having Tempest Shield and a Shield equip will make you substantially more tanky. Anger or Wrath. Wrath is better, but has a high intelligence requirements. You probably don't have the intelligence for Wrath when you enter maps. This is why I recommend Anger, but yeah, you do eventually want to swap to Wrath, because line damage is better than fire damage. Is Lycosidie worth it? So Lycosidie is a very effective way on day 1 to get 100% accuracy. Eventually you will just replace it and get a claw with hits can't be evaded, which is the same thing as a shield. Yeah, the shield is just temporary. I don't think it's really worth like 1 divine. When I got up like 5C, it was extremely worth, because like 5C, all your accuracy is solved for like all of early mapping is extremely nice. The shield does not need to play to build. You just grab more accuracy nodes to make up for it. So for example, if you don't have the shield, just click the QD wheel, take the plus 500 accuracy mastery, and then get a shield of 500 accuracy, and then you should be about accuracy cap, and that's all you need. You don't really need anything else. So the reason why I use Lycosidite early on, because you save 4 points, and you also need to, worry about getting a really good shield. But with that said, a GG shield will easily beat out this. A shield that costs like 1 and 2 divines will beat out Lycosidite. So yeah, I don't really think the shield is worth it if it's worth like 1 divine or more. So do keep that in mind. Lethal Pride and Inertia. So Inertia, once again, this will just be a cheap option to solve early strength issues. If this costs like 50 C plus, it's not worth it. And later on, Lethal Pride will solve all your strength issues. You can just get strength on gear and not use Inertia. That works just as well. And then of course, when you get your Lethal Pride, you're looking for a double damage node, or Intimidate, or Rage on hit, or Endurance Trust on kill. You want like one of these or a combination of these. And if you're low on strength, you can also use Cast on Damage Taken and Mortal Call instead of the Steel Skin setup. This setup requires like no strength, so if you don't have 155 strength and Steel Skin, just run this instead. Pierce Crusher real quick, you just need Pierce on gloves. If you don't have Pierce on gloves like Implicit or Craft on Prefix or in the helmet, then you take this Pierce Wheel, but this Pierce Wheel is pretty bad for point value, so do try to get Pierce on gloves eventually so you can save 3 points in your skill tree. Race Generation, so Race Generation, once again, you either get an Implicit on your gloves or you get it from your Lethal Pride. Currently, I'm getting an Implicit on my gloves. Power Charge Generation, so this is extremely important. Make sure your Assassin's Mark has 20% quality. If it does not have 20% quality, you will not generate power charges. So make sure when you do a Merc or Uberlap to quality your Assassin's Mark to 20% from the Labyrinth. This is extremely important for your Power Charge Generation. What other gems to use in your chest if you can't get 3 red? So 3 green, 2 red, and 1 blue also works. Just to replace the elemental damage with attacks for Ice Bite or Hypothermia. Ice Bite is better, but this might ruin your Trinity. So, if that's the case, then just use Hypothermia. And also on the topic of Trinity, I get this question a lot. Trinity only needs 2 elements to work. Only 2. It does not need 3. You probably will have all 3 elements, but essentially how Trinity works, you need the maximum of 1 element to be higher than the minimum of the next element. So, for example here, my max fire damage is 7,800, and then my min cold damage is 6,500. So because my max fire is higher than my minimum cold damage, my Trinity will always work in this case. So that's all you have to see for Trinity. It just needs to be any element of their max being higher than any other element of their minimum. That is how Trinity works. That's all you need to know about it. You can also see in the top right, when your Trinity activates, if all 3 wheels aren't filled, that means your Trinity is not working. How to get Freeze Immune and Blind Immune. So this is really important for the build. So Freeze Immune comes from Soul of the Brian King, and Blind Immune comes from this soul, and this negates the Pantheon downside. You'll no longer be blinded with this, and it also gives you reduced effect of shock on you, which is another nice upside. All you have to do is go to your map device, put in a Divine Vessel with a Core Runes map, and then you run the map, and then when it's done, you take out Divine Vessel, you click it, and it upgrades your Pantheon. So it's Coral Runes for Freeze Immune, and it's Dig Map for Blind Immune. This is very, very important, so make sure you do this. How to solve mana issues. So I'm not sure where people have mana issues from. This build has 0 mana issues. The only thing I can think of is you don't have Life Tap linked to your Whirling Blades. And if this is the case, make sure Life Tap is linked to Whirling Blades. And if you're on a 6 link, make sure you're using Inspiration. This gives you mana cost reduction. This is mandatory as well. If you can't run the 2 auras, so if you can't run like Anger and Grace or Wrath and Grace, make sure you have the 12% mana reservation from Thrill to Battle. So it's the mastery on this right here. You need this to run both Grace and Anger. Yeah, that's all I can think of. This build doesn't have any mana issues, so I'm not sure where people are struggling here. Maybe it's just a new player issue, but yeah, that's how you would solve it if you're having mana issues. Blood Rage, we already talked about this. Make sure your Lightning Strike has always attack without movement enabled. So you go down right here, you left click your Lightning Strike, and make sure this is clicked. The reason why this is important, this allows you to attack without moving, which is very important for getting a double hit off and just for being like a ranged playstyle in general. If you have this turned off, it'll make you walk up and then Lightning Strike, which is, yeah, very, very bad. So make sure this is clicked on. And then one last thing real quick is my filter progression. So you can follow all my filters on my profile. Activities all updated, but you start to claw leveling for campaign. When you go to maps, you transition to early maps filter. When you start farming tier 16s, go into the early league tier 16 filter. And then eventually you can transition into the strict tier 16 filter or the more strictness tier 17 filter. That is up to you. But yeah, that's about it for the FAQ. I hope this helps you guys. I really didn't expect this many new players to start playing PvE1 in just an event, just an off-season thing. But I do hope this does help those people who are newer to the game, and hopefully you can progress and have fun with this build because it is extremely strong, especially in the end game. But anyway, that's about it.